Hey everyone, it's Jeff here, and today we're going to do a full collection breakdown of my complete Scream Factory collection. I've got, I think, like 100-ish titles. I don't know, count as the video goes on because I honestly don't know off the top of my head. But it's a big collection, a lot of horror movies, a lot of cool stuff, indie stuff, classics, 80s, 70s, lots of cool artwork. It'll give you lots of ideas on things to buy if you want to dive into horror movie collecting. Scream Factory is a great label. There are many others which I will also cover on the channel, but Scream Factory was my first boutique label I ever found. I've been buying from them for 10 plus years. They do a great job. They sell really cool exclusives on their site with posters and extras. I just love what they do. I love their collector's edition releases, and so I want to highlight them first. So this is going to be a long video. I'm going to go through every single title and talk about each one on this shelf behind me. So stay tuned for it. But with that being said, let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into the shelf. All right, here we go. So bear with me as I pull each of these off. But the first film is American Gothic. Really fun, campy 80s slasher movie. Stars Rod Steiger. Yeah, it's based on that famous painting to a certain degree. That's kind of the inspiration for it, but it's one of those goofy 80s horror movies that Scream Factory does so well. Next up, I've got Animal. This is from Chiller Films. Now, I don't think they're around anymore, to be honest, but it's a really budget creature feature. It actually stars Keke Palmer, who you probably know from starring in Nope, and she's become pretty famous since this came out, but it's nothing special. I loved the artwork on it. I love a good creature feature. It's a fun movie, but of course, you know, it's a B movie. Don't expect too much. Next up, I've got Anti-Birth, which is an IFC Midnight title. Scream Factory does a lot of IFC Midnight stuff. This has a great cast, and it's a really fun pregnancy horror movie with a lot of twists and turns, but pregnancy horror is almost like its own little subgenre now, which I think is super funny, but also creates some really unique movies like this. Here on the collector's edition Blu-ray, I don't have the slipcover, but I do have April Fool's Day. I'm a sucker for anything that's a holiday-related horror movie. That was its own subgenre in the 80s as well. After Halloween, Friday the 13th, you had My Bloody Valentine, Black Christmas, all these things came out, and so movies like April Fool's Day just kind of played on that, and this is actually, I think, one of the better ones. It's a lot of fun, and it's a great movie for April Fool's Day. Of course, I've got Army of Darkness, all-time favorite. Love the series, love Sam Raimi. Bruce Campbell's amazing. This one's super fun because it's more fantasy, action, adventure as much as it is horror, but beautiful 4K collector's edition release here from Scream Factory. This is the kind of thing that they do so well with the artwork, packaging, and all of the special features on this, which are just loaded. Theatrical cuts, director's cuts, international cuts. It's got everything you could ever want. Now, Scream Factory can also have some fun with stuff like Assault on Precinct 13, which I wouldn't really necessarily consider a horror movie, but it is John Carpenter. It's a really great film. It's like a mix of The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3 and The Warriors in a way. They just don't make them like this anymore. Next up, we got The Axe Murders of Wielicka, inspired by a true story. Now, this is IFC Midnight. I actually have not seen this one, but the tagline and the plot sold me. In 1912, 8 people were brutally murdered in their house, this house. 1912, Axe Murders, little period piece slasher. I love that. So this is a recent pickup, but one that I definitely want to check out. If you've seen it, let me know. The Autopsy of Jane Doe. This is IFC Midnight as well. I've got the slipcover here. I love this movie. It is incredibly scary, terrifying. Great performances by Emile Hirsch and Brian Cox from Succession. This movie's so good. If you've never seen it, you need to watch it. Watch it on Blu-ray. It's a great way to experience it. But these are the kind of IFC Midnight gems that Scream Factory will put out. So I love that they'll do stuff from, MGM and Universal and the bigger studios, and then they'll also make sure that stuff from IFC Midnight gets released. And a lot of people wouldn't have seen this film without Scream Factory. It's a great, great movie. Speaking of great movies, how about The Babadook? Jennifer Kent's debut film. Super, super terrifying movie. I love the packaging on this too. This actually pops out and has the Babadook. If it's in a word or it's in a look, you can't get rid of the Babadook. So it's awesome. Special features. Great slipcover. I have the 4K release of this as well because I like the movie so much, but I couldn't get rid of this. It's too cool. The Bat People is a classic 70s B movie. This is one of those Mystery Science Theater 3000 type movies where they'd riff on it because, yeah, It's that goofy, but if you're into that sort of thing, this is what Scream Factory can give you. They can give you the slashers, they can give you the mainstream big horror hits, but they also give you some of those B-movie cult hits, and The Bat People is one of those. This is a great one to watch with some friends and some drinks. Another gem here from IFC Midnight is Baskin from Jean Evernal. This movie is a Turkish movie. It takes you on a deep dive into hell. Incredibly scary, excellent visuals, terrifying practical effects. It tells a great story too. It's really well worth watching. A lot of people miss it because it is in Turkish, but you should check this one out. It's highly, highly recommended. Here's another fun one from 1989, Baxter, Beware of the Dog That Thinks. I have not seen this yet. It's on my watch list, but I had to get it. Anytime there's a creature feature, that's my thing. I love Jaws. I love creature features. I love that subgenre of horror. So this is 1989, a little more recent. Almost looks like a TV movie in a certain way. Maybe it was, but I don't really know much about it. If you've seen it, let me know. Here's a classic, Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon. This is the collector's edition with the beautiful slipcover. An incredible movie. It's like a meta horror movie. It's like a found footage documentary crew that is following Leslie Vernon, who wants to be like a slasher killer. So it's really meta in that way. It's got Freddy Krueger in it. You can see Robert Englund right there. It's got a bunch of special features as well. It's a really, really fun movie. It's definitely a horror comedy, but well worth watching. More creature features here. This is Beneath, which is nothing special, I'll say. It's in that subgenre that I like, especially anything that's kind of Jaws related, water related. That's my favorite movie. So I pick these up. I never expect much from them. Like, they're not good movies, but they are a kind of fun movie to just put on in the background. Well, we saw Killer Dogs. How about Killer Rats? Where Willard ended, Ben begins. Willard is, I don't know if it's in the collection. I have Willard. Yeah, it is. We'll get to that one later. It is a Scream Factory, but this actually has an Oscar-nominated theme song, believe it or not. How about that for a weird horror movie about a gang of murderous rats? Super crazy movie. Then, of course, Black Christmas, the one that really kind of started it all. We don't have Halloween, Friday the 13th, all those others without Black Christmas. This movie's so great. The 4K release looked incredible. Had to get it on 4K. I had the Blu-ray. I upgraded. This collector's edition has everything you'd want for special features. It's got brand new scans, all kinds of, commentaries, interviews, behind the scenes stuff. A great release. How about a little office horror, Blood-Sucking Bastards with Fran Kranz from Cabin in the Woods. It has Pedro Pascal in it. Joel Murray's in this. It's got a pretty decent cast. Pedro Pascal is very funny. It's kind of a horror comedy. If you liked something like The Belko Experiment, you might like this one. I'm all down for office horror because, trust me, being in an office can be horrific. I got my collector's edition here of My Bloody Valentine, one of those spin-off slasher movies from that Halloween, Friday the 13th, Black Christmas vein, holiday horror. I do need to upgrade this one to 4K because I've heard great things, but I love the artwork on the collector's edition Blu-ray. It has a bunch of special features. It's a great film. Everyone should watch it. One of the best slashers of all time. Scream Factory has a ton of John Carpenter movies. This is a collector's edition from way back in the day, Body Bags. The slipcover is like long out of print. This is one of their early releases, but anything Carpenter, I'm into. So I own, I think, every one of his movies at this point that's available. I love the artwork on this one, and this one also has tons of special features, as most of the Scream Factory discs do. So check out Body Bags. The Boy is kind of a creepy one starring Rainn Wilson from The Office. He was Dwight. It's not the best movie in the world, but if you like stuff with strange kids and kind of that Children of the Corn type feel, The Boy might be for you. This kid, he's a little creepy. Here's an all-time classic, maybe one of the most underrated slasher movies ever, The Burning. It doesn't get talked about in the same vein as Friday the 13th or all those other kind of camp slashers. Even Sleepaway Camp, I think, gets more attention than The Burning, but this one's great. I do probably want to upgrade it to 4K, but I love this artwork so much, and I love this release. It was one of the first that I ever bought from Scream Factory, so just a beauty. Bubba Hotep's a fun one by Don Coscarelli. Bruce Campbell's amazing. Ossie Davis, also amazing. It's horror comedy set in a nursing home. These guys think they're literally like Elvis and JFK. Very, very funny zombie movie, cool practical effects. Everything you'd want from Don Coscarelli, but plus a bunch of great humor, and Bruce Campbell just going above and beyond. Another classic here, the 4K collector's edition of the original Candyman. What a great movie, revolutionary movie. Tony Todd is so incredible. What can be said about this one? It's perfect. It's really, really good. And the 4K release also looks great. Then I've got The Car with James Brolin and Kathleen Lloyd. Now, I have not watched this yet, but my uncle recommended this to me. He said he watched it when he was a kid. It's wacky. It's B-movie. It looks like, Christine and Duel. That killer car thing was an interesting subgenre for a little bit. So eventually I'll check this out. But if you guys have seen it, let me know what you think. 4K collector's edition of Carrie, one of the best horror movies of all time. Stephen King classic. Brian De Palma directs the hell out of it. It's really well done. This movie could have won Oscars. It probably should have won Oscars. It's beautifully shot, and this 4K disc is off the charts good. If you've never seen Carrie on 4K, now's the time to watch it. It looks as good as it ever has. And speaking of Carrie, here's the remake with Chloe Grace Moretz and Julianne Moore. Pretty decent in its own right. This is a new 4K release from Scream Factory that they just put out recently. I do like the artwork on this one. Very cool. Lots of good special features. Maybe not my thing, but could be somebody's. Now I'm going to run through these ones in bunches. We got Child's Play, Child's Play 2, and Child's Play 3, all on 4K collector's editions. Scream Factory went above and beyond, really giving Chucky and the Child's Play series the premium treatment, as I'll show you with the rest of the sequels. It's incredible that we have literally every Chucky Child's Play movie on 4K. What a time to be alive, and great artwork. And here's the rest of them. I got Bride of Chucky, Seed of Chucky, Curse of Chucky, and Cult of Chucky. Seriously, who would have guessed Cult and Curse of Chucky would have come to 4K? I can see Bride of Chucky, but a lot of these get kind of deep, and you have to be really into these films to enjoy them. But Scream Factory, they did a great job. So you got Child's Play all the way through Cult of Chucky, and they just put out the 2019 Child's Play as well on 4K. So literally every Child's Play movie is available in this highest premium format, which is super cool. Classic cult movie here, Class of '84, collector's edition. Love the artwork on it. It's got a bunch of special features. One of those great cult movies you would have seen in the video store shelves. More IFC Midnight. We got the Clove Hitch Killer. This one's great. Dylan McDermott kills it. It's kind of like BTK plus Summer of '84, serial killer. Really chilling stuff. If you like Summer of '84 and you like Mindhunter and those BTK scenes, you'll probably like Clove Hitch Killer. Then I've got Coraline, which technically is a Shout Studios release, not Scream Factory, their sub-label, which I'm showing you. But I consider this to be a horror movie, so I keep it here. And this is one of the best 4K discs that's ever been put out. The stop motion is unreal in 4K. Got the 4K of The Craft, one of the most famous horror movies of the 90s with an unreal cast. It's quintessential 90s. Everybody loves this movie. It's very nostalgic. The 4K release was a little controversial when it came out, but I honestly think it's really, really good. Crucible of Horror is a fun one. It's a canon horror movie. Kind of classic castle horror, it looks like. I have not seen it yet. I literally just bought this in a recent sale, but I love that genre of horror, and anything with the old castles and murder mysteries, and count me in. Another one from IFC Midnight, a little hidden gem, Dark Summer. Very, very creepy ghost movie. If you like the supernatural stuff, I think you'll enjoy this. It's not the highest budget, but it's pretty damn good. We got Day of the Dead here, the George Romero classic, the follow-up to Dawn of the Dead. Great practical effects, great action, great zombie movie. A little bit lighter than some of his other work. It's a little more fun, but I really like this. This is, again, one of the first collector's editions I bought from Scream Factory. Dead Silence, creepy movie here from James Wan. Gotta love a creepy doll. I just love the story on this too. There's a lot of mythology. 4K collector's edition, great original artwork, and again, all those special features. Some more IFC Midnight, The Devil's Dolls. This one's definitely low budget too, but it is pretty bloody. It's pretty violent, pretty gory. It's like paranormal possession, but like serial killer is the like devil in this. Like serial killer is possessing people. It's kind of a crazy story. I had fun with it though. It's IFC Midnight. You have to expect those drive-in type movies, and that's what this is. Here's a little period horror from the 1820s, The Doctor and the Devils. Again, love a good period horror piece, love going back in time into the 1700s, 1800s. It was a creepy time, creepy stories. This one is pretty good. I watched it years ago, so I don't super remember it well, but I know that it kind of dives into like grave digging and has some really creepy scenes with that. It's I remember it being kind of fun, but I should revisit it. More IFC Midnight, Don't Knock Twice, with the great slipcover here. You got a child stealing witch in this movie. Again, it's going to be lower budget. It's going to be one of those kind of drive-in movies, but effectively scary, I think. Very creepy. The mythology of the witch is cool. Everything about it's, pretty cool. I love that they do these indie releases. All-time classic here, Sam Raimi, Drag Me to Hell. What a beautiful movie, incredible movie, chilling movie. Some great imagery and visuals. One of my favorites, and the ending is pretty cool because you don't get endings like that too often in horror. Then I've got The Editor. This one's a fun one because it's kind of a giallo throwback. It also reminds me of a film like Berberian Sound Studio, if you saw that. It reminds me a little bit of the movie Censor, if you've seen that. Basically, I love these horror movies about people who work in horror movies, and that starts to kind of mess with their minds and change their thinking. And this is very much murder mystery giallo, but like to the kind of campiest degree. Evil Dead here on 4K. What a beauty. The blood in this looks awesome in 4K. Fede Alvarez, can't wait to see his Alien movie, Alien Romulus. He kills it in Evil Dead. This is such a cool movie. I think one of the best horror sequels or remakes, whatever you want to call it. It's one of the best that's ever been done, and it's an incredible homage to the original. Speaking of incredible horror movie sequels, how about The Exorcist 3, which I think is the best Exorcist movie outside of the original. Some people actually might like it a little bit more. I personally think it's a little bit more scary. It's got more scares in it than the original Exorcist, which I appreciate for what it is, but this one really got me. It is so good. George C. Scott, amazing in this. Brad Dourif, amazing in this. A really great movie, and the 4K looked amazing. Firestarter is a Stephen King classic. You got a real young Drew Barrymore in this. They remade it recently. Not great. The original is so Stephen King. It's so much fun. There's a ton of special features on this. I mean, you got to love a girl who has the power to just light things on fire with a glance. It's very much that supernatural horror that Stephen King loves. Again, George C. Scott. You also got David Keith. You got Martin Sheen, Heather Locklear. A pretty stacked cast, and it was directed by the same guy who did Class of '84 and Commando. So really, really good. More Carpenter here. The Fog. I have this one on 4K too, but I just can't get rid of my Carpenter movies, especially with this great artwork. The Fog is one that looks great on 4K because it's so dark and kind of misty. The 4K helps, but such a great ghost story. I love the coastal town, ghost story by the sea, all that whole setting. I kind of grew up near the coast. It feels very much like that great New England folklore horror. I really love it. Got Full Moon High here. This came out before Teen Wolf, I believe, if I'm getting my timing right, but it is a weird one. It's a B movie. It is goofy, funny. I've only seen clips of it. I actually just took the wrapping off of this because I just bought this from Scream Factory. It's a brand new edition. So I haven't watched the whole film, but let me know because I thought it was going to be right up my alley. Then we got The Funhouse from Tobe Hooper, director of Texas Chainsaw Massacre and a ton of other great classics. But this one, it actually got some recent recognition because it ended up in Tarantino's book about film. And it got a 4K release here, a collector's edition. It's a unique movie, and I love the setting. That carnival funhouse setting is so much fun. And speaking of, here's the low-budget B-movie version of that. The Funhouse Massacre, more funhouse slasher. This one has Clint Howard and Robert Englund, so it's got a little bit of the genre kind of character actors behind it. Nothing special, but I love a good B movie. I just bought this one the other day, so I have not watched it, but it came highly, highly recommended. Funeral Home. It sounded like a ton of fun reading the description. It is from the early 80s, I believe, 82. And people were telling me, hey, you need to watch this. You need to see it. You love 80s horror. This is a must-see. So I grabbed it. We'll see what I think of it, but the artwork really sold me too. Love that. Hey, who doesn't love a little creepy clown movie? Costumes. You gotta love this. Gabri Sidibe, Sarah Silverman, Jimmy Simpson, a lot of real comedic talent here. It's definitely goofy. It's not meant to be a serious horror movie, but it's one of those really fun, indie horrors that Scream Factory does a great job putting out. The Harvest is another one from IFC Midnight. Great cast. Michael Shannon, Peter Fonda is in this. It's kind of a creepy kid movie, which we talked about. I like that. But the director, same guy who did Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. So you kind of know the vibe and the style you're getting with this one. It's pretty serious. The Hallow, more IFC Midnight. This one's really fun too. Great creature effects, great creature design. It's pretty creepy. It's based in London and Ireland, and it's got very much that like folk horror feel to it. It's been years since I watched it, but I think it would go well with other folk horror movies from like the Severance set, All the Haunts Be Ours. It's that type of movie. And then I've got Hellions, more IFC Midnight. This one, killer kids, crazy kids. Robert Patrick from Terminator 2, he's in this. The kids basically go nuts on Halloween night. Really strange trick-or-treaters show up and start causing some terror. So the little Hellions, more killer kids. You gotta love that. It's always a ton of fun. All right, so starting with the next shelf, and we've got hashtag horror, which is a fun one, little internet thriller. This also has a pretty good cast. Natasha Lyonne's in this. Chloe's, I never know how to say her name, Sevigny, but pretty decent cast. Timothy Hutton as well. It's a little like internet stalker, based on a true story, kind of a creepy one. Then I've got House on Willow Street, another IFC Midnight. This one I haven't watched yet. It's a recent pickup, but it had me sold with the story. A perfect kidnapping goes awry and the shock-a-minute supernatural wild ride. Looked like a fun little home invasion type supernatural horror movie with a twist. If you've seen it, let me know what you think. Then we've got The House That Jack Built. This one's pretty notorious for being one of the most disturbing movies out there. Lars von Trier, I mean, you should guess that it's going to be disturbing, but it's brutal. If you've seen like a Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, or maybe to a lesser degree, like August Underground is probably a little more intense than this. But the thing about this is it's like really beautifully shot and it's really well acted and it's just so brutal. It's hard to watch. Speaking of hard to watch, how about The Human Centipede? I've got the complete sequence box set here. I think this is out of print now. This has all 3 Human Centipede movies in it. It's a nice little set. These movies they're sick. They really are sick, but I've seen them, and they're midnight movies. What do you expect? They honestly get sicker as they go along, so if you've only ever seen the first one, they get worse. I Am Not a Serial Killer is a really fun one from IFC Midnight. Has Christopher Lloyd here from Back to the Future. And it's basically about this kid who like thinks he might be has serial killer tendencies, but then a real serial killer shows up in his town and that kind of sets him off. I don't want to give too much away. It's a cool little small town thriller. More of a thriller even than a horror movie. All right. In the Mouth of Madness. Do you read Sutter Kane? This one's great. Another John Carpenter. Beautiful artwork. Sam Neill is incredible in this. Actually set in New Hampshire, where I live. Big portions of it are set in New Hampshire. I love it. It's such a great movie. It's H.P. Lovecraft, that type of style at its worst, I'll say, like in a good way. But such a great movie. I think one of Carpenter's most underrated films. We got Invaders from Mars. This is Tobe Hooper's remake of the 1950s sci-fi original. Fun little 80s schlocky B-movie alien invasion stuff. I mean, don't expect too much going into it. If you've seen the original, you shouldn't expect too much. It's, that's the kind of movie it is, but this one's a lot of fun. Classic here, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I love the artwork on this release. Donald Sutherland is unreal in this. It has an incredible ending. It's a really great movie. It's been remade a couple times. A bunch of special features. It now has I think it has a 4K release, but I just like the artwork on that one so much. How about this one, King Kong, the 70s King Kong with Jeff Daniels. And who else was in that? Jessica Lange. That's right. It's her feature film debut, Jessica Lange from American Horror Story. So this is the 70s King Kong. It is Scream Factory. I'd consider it more of like a Shout Factory release. It's obviously a little bit horror, but if you've never seen the 70s version, it's worth checking out. And I said Jeff Daniels. It's not Jeff Daniels. It's Jeff Bridges. I always screw them up. Next, we've got Krampus, the Naughty Cut. This is a recent release within the last year from Scream Factory on 4K. first time the naughty cut had been available, which is just a little bit of like an unrated cut of the film. I think it improves the movie in a lot of ways. The 4K release is great, awesome artwork, all kinds of features, new Dolby Atmos, great set there. Here's an all-time classic, Lake Placid. Back to some creature features. Love this movie. I think it's really, really good. It's got a great cast, including Bill Pullman, Bridget Fonda, you got Oliver Platt, you got Betty White in this one. You gotta love a killer crocodile. Lawnmower Man, this one's a trip. This is like sci-fi horror, a little bit of futurism. It's been a while since I watched this, but I saw something about it the other day. It made me want to revisit it. Somebody was talking about it on a podcast or something that I was watching, but this has a 4K scan, even here on the Blu-ray. I don't know if they did a 4K of that yet, but it's a cool movie. Then we've got The Lesson. This one's pretty messed up because of its content. It's a killer teacher, basically, scary teacher. Kids act up in class. The teacher's gonna teach them a lesson. So pretty messed up concept. It's really freaky. I believe it's an IFC. If it's not IFC Midnight, it's definitely one of those indie movies. But yeah, a pretty creepy one. Then we've got Manhunter. Maybe Michael Mann's most underrated movie. Nobody talks about this because of Silence of the Lambs. I shouldn't say nobody talks about it. It has a following, but people think Silence of the Lambs and Hannibal Lecter. They think Anthony Hopkins. They think, Jodie Foster, that series. But Manhunter is really cool. It's got the Michael Mann vibe. It's colorful. It's neon. It's 80s. It's everything that Michael Mann is great at in his heyday. And I really like the killer in this one. This one's great. If you've never seen Manhunter, you need to watch it. How about some more holiday horror? New Year's Evil. This one has an interesting twist. Basically, the killer is he's an anonymous caller, says he's going to kill somebody in a different time zone at midnight every hour, until he's caught. So an interesting little twist, but again, a lot of your kind of standard slasher fare outside of that. Now we get into my Night of section. Night of the Comet, Night of the Creeps, Night of the Demons. Starting with Night of the Comet. This one's a lot of fun. Big time 80s vibes, like that 80s mall vibe. Like that's what this movie is. It's more apocalyptic than horror. It has its moments, but it's kind of like it's like Mad Max meets some like 80s mall movie meets like Stranger Things meets like a really violent couple of girls here. You probably said it best in the back. It's like Night of the Living Dead meets Valley Girl. That's definitely a good way to put it. Night of the Creeps here, collector's edition. I found this with a slipcover at Bull Moose. Got a great deal on it considering it's out of print, but Tom Atkins is in this one. We love Tom Atkins, horror movie royalty there. But this is kind of like it's like a 50s alien invasion movie. Aliens like take over a campus and they've got to fight back against the aliens and these creatures, these like alien zombies almost. But it's really funny because the college and like all of the characters are named after horror movie directors. So if you're a big fan of horror, you'll enjoy it. Now, Night of the Demons. Angela's having a party and you'll have a hell of a time. And it's true. This one's a ton of fun. This is also quintessential 80s horror, a video store favorite. Got the 4K transfer here. Scream Factory did a 4K for it, which is amazing. It looked great. I actually just watched this the other night. It's seriously so fun. So many one-liners, goofy characters. It's that perfect late night movie. And then you've got Night of the Demons 2, which is a lot more of the same. I like Night of the Demons 1 better, but Night of the Demons 2 has its moments. It's still very cool with the practical effects and the makeup work and soundtrack and everything you love about Night of the Demons. I don't have Night of the Demons 3 though. It's on my Amazon wish list for me eventually to buy at some point, or maybe one of you guys grabs it and sends it out to me, but I do need to get it. Then we've got Nightbreed on 4K collector's edition. This is Clive Barker, so the guys, the creatures in this are going to be freaks. It's a little bit of a travel to a different dimension, to a different world. Very unique stuff, very cool take by Clive Barker. And this has the theatrical cut on 4K and Blu-ray and the director's cut plus a bonus disc. So it's got everything you want from the movie. I know a lot of people really like the director's cut of that one. Then we've got The Nightingale. This is from Jennifer Kent, who did The Babadook. This was her follow-up to The Babadook, and it is an intense movie. Definitely some trigger warnings on this one, but it's almost not, the subject matter is horrific and hard to watch, but it's not really a horror movie as much as it's like a revenge movie. It's more like Last House on the Left, or those female revenge movies than true horror. All right, then we got Orca the Killer Whale. We love a Jaws knockoff, especially when it stars Richard Harris. This was heavily inspired by Jaws. Basically, instead of a shark, it's a killer whale. It's not exactly the same story, but definitely a big time, inspiration or inspired by Jaws. But I love that sort of subgenre of like Jaws ripoffs, so had to have it. Over Your Dead Body is a Japanese movie, which there aren't a ton of, honestly, in Scream Factory. Arrow Video tends to have more of those, but it's a film by Takashi Miike, who was the director of Audition. So you kind of know what you're getting here. Audition, I think, is a much better film, but this one, if you like his style and you like Japanese horror, this one's worth a watch. Of course, classic Wes Craven, People Under the Stairs. This one is a classic. Wes Craven, everything Wes Craven touched was a classic, but this one's so much fun to watch. The rewatchability is extremely high. It is the great cast, all kinds of genre legends in here. Then I've got Phantom of the Opera, the motion picture. Robert Englund, he was Freddy, now he's Phantom of the Opera. This is a pretty creepy one. It is basically a retelling of Phantom of the Opera, but Robert Englund as the Phantom is kind of cool. When I watched this, I didn't expect much from it. I was just kind of more curious to see Freddy play the Phantom, and they kind of even, like, you can see in the artwork, like it's almost Freddy makeup, right? And he's just put the Phantom mask on. Speaking of the Amazon wish list, Piranha. I had this on Blu-ray, and one of you kind followers out there sent me the 4K off of my wish list. So now I have it on 4K. Another Jaws, I wouldn't call it a ripoff. It's its own unique thing, but you can see even from the poster art here, we're obviously, recalling Jaws with that image. This was Roger Corman and Joe Dante worked on this one. Joe Dante did Gremlins, as well as a bunch of other genre films. It's really good, though. I think it's a great follow-up watch or double feature with Jaws. This one is pretty messed up. The Poughkeepsie Tapes, really kind of a unique movie, because I remember as a teenager, there would be trailers on YouTube, and they were playing this up almost like Blair Witch type marketing, and then it just never came out. And then eventually it did drop like years later, and people kind of forgot about it. But it's really, really creepy found footage, intensely scary stuff, some really terrifying scenes, all based on like these basically recorded tapes from a serial killer who lives in Poughkeepsie. So creepy stuff. Then we get Psycho. This is the remake with Vince Vaughn, which is directed by Gus Van Sant. Got some good special features on it. The movie, I don't think much of it, but I have all the other Psycho movies. And at one point, Arrow Video Scream Factory put out all the Psycho sequels, including this. I got rid of the rest of mine and sold them because I bought the Arrow Video set, but I had to keep that remake. Then we got Prophecy, which is a super fun monster movie. Really creepy creature work. It'll make you rethink camping in the woods for sure. And even though it's a little bit older, it's from the late 70s, it is pretty scary. It is a great little midnight movie that I don't think a lot of people know about. Now we got a couple classics, right? Let me pop these up here. We got Pumpkinhead and Pumpkinhead 2. Obviously, the original Pumpkinhead is classic. The creature work in that's incredible. One of the best creatures in horror movie history. Pumpkinhead 2, don't love the sequel as much, but it still has its merits, and I have fun with it. But the original is a really fun movie that I recently rewatched around Halloween this year and had a ton of fun with it. Now I've got the Wreck collection from Scream Factory. So this is going to have Wreck, Wreck 2, Wreck 3, and Wreck Apocalypse, I think is the last one. If I'm correct. Yeah, Wreck 4, Wreck Apocalypse. So this is the series of Spanish movies, which they remade in America. They called it Quarantine. But it's essentially, the same kind of idea, especially the first film. It's a TV reporter going into an abandoned building. So it's a fun little series of movies, and if you enjoy these, they are pretty scary. They have some intense stuff. If you enjoy those, then I would recommend Quarantine as well, but I think Wreck is better. Then, of course, the classic, The Return of the Living Dead, one of the most infamous zombie movies. Again, well known for its creature work, well known for its music, for its just design. It is very 80s. It's like the most punk rock zombie movie ever made, but one that I really, really enjoy. And, rumor has it that there's a remake of this in the works. Relic. This is a new IFC Midnight movie that people told me I had to buy. So I actually just recently bought it. It came in like last week. These IFC Midnight, don't sleep on IFC Midnight. They have great stuff. But this movie, I guess, is about like a mother who's kind of going through like Alzheimer's, dementia, and then some really haunted stuff happens around that. So it kind of comments on, getting old and aging and how sad that can be, but like it also makes it kind of horrific. That's what I've been told. I can't wait to watch it. Now here's a beauty right here, the Ring collection. This just came in the other day, brand new on 4K. This has all of the Ring movies, the Ring 2, and even Rings, as much as maybe I don't love that. But these are the OG, these aren't the OG Ring movies. These are the American remakes. So Arrow Video has a Ringu set, which is all the Japanese Ring movies. Scream Factory has the American set, which is all of the American remakes in that series of films. But The Ring is still, I think, one of the scariest movies I've seen. The fact that it's PG-13 blows my mind. It is a terrifying movie. Here's a hidden gem, The Sentinel. This is a great little like religious horror movie. It has a really creepy ending, which almost feels like something out of Hereditary, out of Ari Aster's world. I know he was influenced by this movie when doing Hereditary. This is one of his influences, and you kind of feel that. It's a little bit like Rosemary's Baby in a way, not so much like the pregnancy, but just kind of the story. But it's kind of that, move to New York, you're in a new brownstone, and you might be living on top of the gate from hell, which is always interesting. Great ending, though. Really great effects. Another underrated one is Session 9. I love this because it was filmed pretty close to me, definitely close to where I grew up in Massachusetts, at the Danvers Mental Hospital, which is, or was, a notoriously creepy, haunted place. It's now been torn down, and believe it or not, they built condos on top of it. Now, I don't know who was crazy enough to buy the condos on top of that asylum, but that's where they shot this movie. And that's what makes it so scary. Shot in a real abandoned asylum, which had years and years of horrific history. And this is a horrific story. Stars David Caruso. No sunglasses in this movie, though. All right, more of my Jaws knockoffs. Of course, this one is bad. But The Sharkensaw Woman's Prison Massacre. How can you turn down a movie like that? I think I got it for like $5. It's insane. It's basically a sci-fi movie. I can't recommend it to most people, but it's fun if you like that kind of thing. Then we got Silent Night, Deadly Night here, the collector's edition. What a great Santa slasher. Again, like another little subgenre of horror, like the Christmas Santa slasher character. But this one's notorious, was banned in a lot of places. Parent groups banned it. Kind of an overreaction just because it was Santa, but it's goofy. It's really goofy. It's really intense. It's a fun slasher. It's very 80s. It's one of those great 80s slashers. Now, Silver Bullet on 4K, great Stephen King movie. Love Stephen King. This is a little werewolf movie, right? So we have a little fun with werewolves in this one. I haven't watched this in many, many years, so I was pumped that they did a new 4K release of this. It has all of these features, which are incredible, and some great little minimalist artwork. So I need to rewatch this in 4K because it's been quite a while since I've seen it. All right, let's bang these out together. Some of the most actually valuable releases in my collection. You got Sleepaway Camp 2, and Sleepaway Camp 3, all with the slipcovers. Now, the original Sleepaway Camp's pretty iconic. One of those great 80s camp slasher movies with one of the most infamous endings in horror movie history. 2 and 3 kind of take it in their own direction, but are also a ton of fun. They're a little bit higher production value too. I don't know. I really like all of them. But for better or worse, these have become really hard to find with the slipcovers in particular. That's what makes these valuable, is that they all have the slipcover artwork. I bought these way, way, way back in the day from Scream Factory. Next up, Slither. Love this one. It's a little trauma. Like, James Gunn's a trauma guy, so it's a little bit trauma for him. Like, he comes from that world. But it's got all of his usual suspects. Elizabeth Banks, Michael Rooker, Nathan Fillion is in this. All of the James Gunn characters. But really fun little like alien invasion movie. Like kind of like a horror version of Men in Black in a way. At least like that farmer scene in the beginning. So with Vincent D'Onofrio. So it's like kind of like that, but more horror, more creature work. It's a ton of fun. Now here's a goofy one, Slumber Party Massacre. It's exactly what you think it is. It's a bunch of girls. There's a lot of nudity. They get killed by a guy with this like garden tool. And that's pretty much all the movie is, right? He just slices through a bunch of girls. That is the 80s. That is the slasher genre. This is one of the more risque ones, but it's extremely goofy. Here's some lesser known John Carpenter, Someone's Watching Me. This came out the same year as Halloween. So he's got Halloween in 78, and then he has this one, which is a TV movie. It is also very much about like a girl being stalked by a killer, as the title suggests. So interesting. It was almost like, I think he shot this first before Halloween for TV, but they came out in 78. I feel like it was almost like practice for Halloween in a way. Definitely you can see some of the shared elements. Here's one of my favorite horror movies of all time, The Strangers. This one still scares the hell out of me. Spawned a sequel and now has a whole like trilogy coming, origin story. I don't know how I feel about those. They honestly don't look very good, but The Strangers is so scary. The tagline, because you were home, terrifying stuff. Great acting in this too. They really sell it. And the masks are super scary. It's the scariest home invasion movie I've seen. This is kind of a cool one. It's The Squad. It's a Colombian movie in Spanish. It's about a bunch of soldiers who essentially kind of get lost on a mission, and some crazy stuff starts to kill them, and they're not. Is it supernatural? Is it someone stalking them? What's going on? They all get very paranoid. They all start to lose their mind. It's that kind of thing. But it has a little bit of like a Dog Soldiers feel to it. I think this is a little bit. It's shot a little bit better. It's a little bit newer, but a really cool movie. And I told you you'd see lots of creature features. Well, how about Stung? IFC Midnight. We're talking about hornets. We're talking about wasps, hornets. They just mutate into giant predators. And you got Lance Henriksen from Aliens and Pumpkinhead who stars in this. So you get some good genre people in it. Don't expect too much. It's B-movie stuff. It's midnight movie stuff. Here's a great little documentary, Terror in the Aisles. This is basically just it says it, non-stop roller coaster ride through the scariest moments of the greatest terror films of all time. Now, when did this come out? Because it's definitely not recent. It came out in 1984. So you're looking at a lot of stuff from the 60s, 70s, 80s. Obviously, you can see in the back they're highlighting Jaws, Halloween, The Thing. There's some great people in here. Donald Pleasance and Nancy Allen host it. So you got great hosts. They go through all sorts of stuff throughout the 70s. It's a really great little ride through horror history if you want to get into that. Here's some more holiday horror with Terror Train. This one takes place on New Year's Eve. This was Jamie Lee Curtis's follow-up to Halloween. And it's a really cool movie because it kind of plays with the aspects that like the Scream franchise plays with, where you're basically putting a bunch of kids in a location and someone's killing the kids and they're wearing a mask and you don't know who it is, but you know it's somebody on the train. It has a great performance, or I don't know if I call it great, but a really fun performance from David Copperfield as well, who's in this. And it has a twist that I did not see coming when I first watched it. So it actually got me. So don't spoil it. And then of course, Texas Chainsaw: The Next Generation. This is the drag version of Leatherface. Has Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger, right? They're the two who star in this. Am I wrong on that? No, I'm right on that. That's what I thought off the top of my head. But yeah, this is like one of the wackiest in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But I think it's gained a bit of a cult following because of who's in it. McConaughey, Renee Zellweger, big names. And it's actually, if you don't expect too much, you'll have a good time with it. So moving on down now to the end, the last shelf, we've got The Thing. Now, I have the 4K of The Thing, but I love this artwork. And I have this artwork poster that I got with this release. Scream Factory does a lot of posters with their pre-orders if you order them through them. I got the poster signed by John Carpenter. So this one has a little sentimental meaning. I have the poster framed, signed, all made out to me. But such a great movie, and I won't get rid of the Carpenter stuff. Here I've got the Toolbox Murders 2. The Toolbox Murders I have from the original, from Blue Underground. This is a sequel which came out like literally 30 years later. But somehow they got Bruce Dern to star in this. who's a pretty big name. It's not very good, but if you like that story of the original, you might enjoy it. This movie is good. The Town That Dreaded Sundown. I love this one. One of the most underrated slashers, based on a true story. Now had a remake that came out maybe 15 years ago, but the original is really scary, and it almost is shot kind of like found footage, almost like a newscast. It's shot very much in like the first person at times, and it's super scary. And the guy who made this, he made The Legend of Boggy Creek, which is a found footage movie about a Bigfoot creature. So like it's that same kind of style. And the cool thing about this release is it has a bonus DVD. His movie The Evictors is on here as well, so you get actually a double feature if you buy that. More Carpenter, Village of the Damned. I've come to appreciate this one more and more over the years, but I love a creepy kid story, right? It feels like something Stephen King would have written. It's like kind of that style, but the movie's pretty cool. And this original is, I think they remade this. I'm not sure. I can't, but I know that this is pretty good. The original, I enjoy it. Christopher Reeve and Kirstie Alley are both in it. It's goofy. I mean, it's got Carpenter's fingerprints all over it, but it's not his like best movie ever, but it's pretty fun. I got the Vincent Price collection here. Now, this is only volume 1. They've done a few more of these, and I need to pick them up, but this one has quite a few movies. You get The Pit and the Pendulum, The Mask of the Red Death, The Haunted Palace, The Fall of the House of Usher, The Abominable Mr. Phoebes, Dr. Phoebes, and Witchfinder General. I don't know if that's Dr. Phoebes or Phibes or whatever it is, but Witchfinder General. Now, of these, I've seen the Edgar Allan Poe ones. That's really why I bought it. I love The Pit and the Pendulum, The Mask of Red Death, and The Fall of the House of Usher. That's what I bought this for. But Vincent Price, if you're a horror fan, you need to watch more of his stuff. Then we got Willard. I mentioned this earlier when we talked about the movie Ben. This is Willard and his friend Ben. Ben will do anything for Willard. So Ben is the sequel to Willard, the Killer Rat. It is midnight movie perfection. 1971 though, so pretty early. Like actually a little bit earlier than you'd probably expect. It feels a little bit more like it could have been an 80s movie, but that one with Ben is kind of a fun double feature. Also have Willy's Wonderland. This just recently came out. I don't know what to call this other than like Five Nights at Freddy, the movie remake. Like it's like Five Nights at Freddy's movie, the movie. I don't know. Like it's weird that Five Nights at Freddy's came out and this also came out because it's essentially the same concept, right? Nick Cage running around a abandoned Chuck E. Cheese type place with a bunch of creatures who come alive at night. But Scream Factory was nice enough to give us a collector's edition. So you get the movie in Dolby Vision, you get some nice special features, and you get Nick Cage in glorious 4K. Let's round it out here. We got 2 left. We got Zombie Fight Club. It's a Chinese movie. It's in Mandarin. It's okay. It's nothing special. If you like zombie movies, you might enjoy it. I mean, it's a cool concept, but kind of a generic cheap zombie movie, but I remember picking that up early on. And we got Tales from the Crypt presents Demon Knight. You gotta love the cast in this one. You gotta love the Crypt Keeper, of course, as always. I actually need to get the rest of the Tales from the Crypt movies, and it would be really nice if they did a big Tales from the Crypt set as well, because I think it definitely deserves that attention. The Crypt Keeper is an iconic horror movie legend. So more of this, Scream Factory. After I shot the video, I totally forgot about this beautiful Friday the 13th collection from Scream Factory. It has every single Friday the 13th movie on Blu-ray, many of them with 4K transfers. It has incredible artwork. It's the only set on the market right now where you can get every single Friday the 13th movie. There are rights issues with the Friday the 13th movies. Scream Factory came together. They put this set out. There was a long out-of-print tin Blu-ray set that I did have, but this is so much nicer. The transfers are beautiful. The artwork is beautiful. So if you love Friday the 13th, this is a must own. And now let's jump over to my Halloween collection. Now rounding this out, we have the Halloween 4K collection from Scream Factory. This has every Halloween movie up to the Rob Zombie and then the new trilogy. So you've got Halloween, Halloween 2, Halloween 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and Resurrection. They're all in beautiful 4K releases with their own slipcovers, collector's editions. The artwork is off the chain. It's incredible artwork all the way around. H20 has great artwork. They put these out in 2 different sets. They did 1 through 5 first. then 6, 7, and 8 in a separate set. But what I did was I took all of them and I got this custom box set made by Blockbuster Box Sets on Etsy, which is really cool. So it kind of looks like the Friday the 13th collection, but I have all of these in 4K. They're unbelievable transfers, better than even the studio 4K discs that have come out for a couple of these. And Halloween the Curse of Michael Myers has that producer's cut. All the special features are on here. It's a really incredible must-have set. And then if you want the Rob Zombie movies, I would check out the Via Vision 2-disc set. That's the best you can get right now for those. And then of course the new trilogy has a bunch of 4K releases which are widely available, but these are beautiful. One of my favorite sets in my collection, and Blockbuster Box Sets really did a great job on the custom packaging. Alright guys, so that's the Scream Factory collection. You just got every movie that I own from Scream Factory, although as I'm making this video, I'm probably about to go place a sale and they're going out of print sale, so there'll probably be 7 or 8 more to add to this. We can always do an update in a couple of years, but hopefully this gave you some ideas for new movies, things you could pick up. If you want to learn more about Scream Factory, I'll put links in the description. You can always reach out to me with questions, comments, DMs, whatever. I'll help you figure it all out because I was there one time. I had to figure it all out too. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. I know it was a long video, but a good one to maybe just put on the background and listen to while you're, maybe mowing the lawn or doing the dishes or whatever. But I love doing these and just talking about entire pieces of my collection. So let me know if you want to see others. We could do Arrow Video, Vinegar Syndrome, Criterion again, because I could update that from a couple years back. We can have some fun with this. I had fun doing it, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you're subscribed here if you want more content like this on my collection and just movie talk in general. Also make sure to follow me on social media. Those links are in the description and right here with the QR code. But thank you for all watching. I appreciate your support. Have a great rest of your day. Stay safe, stay healthy, keep watching great movies, and I'll talk to you soon.